Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peter Boom Boom Reviews Stuff. And I am back for another review of another television show. And this time, I am talking about Welcome to Chippendales, which was, I believe, an original Hulu television show. I started watching it when it first came out on Hulu, and I was rather surprised with the first episode when I started watching it right away. So let me give you a little bit of a background to the story. So I didn't know anything about this, all right? I do have to share a funny story. I think it was 2 times ago, my husband and I were in Las Vegas, and a friend of ours that's very social in Las Vegas, he called us and he said, hey, would you like to go to the Chippendales show? And we're like, sure. And so we were going to take Alex's cousin, his cousin Maya, with us. And we asked her, we were like, do you want to go to the Chippendales show? And she said, I mean, I guess. It's kind of corny. And so we got there and she showed up and she met us there. And I think Alex and I were like 2 of 3 guys that were in the entire audience. And it was hosted by Perez Hilton. And so we were sitting in like the second row, and it was like Maya and Alex and I. And so the women in front of us, the 2 women in front of us, like everybody came around, they got their drinks and stuff before the show started. And so it's like a stage, and then it has like a runway that comes out into the middle of the audience. And so the 2 women in front of us, they said, have you ever seen a Chippendales show before? They were talking to Maya, and she was like, no, I've never seen one of these shows before. And they said, oh my God, you're gonna love it. And they were like, this is like our 6th or 7th time or something like that, right? And we were just kind of laughing, like, this is so corny. And so Maya turned to us and she was like, they said that they love this show and that I'm gonna love it, but like, I just think this is like ridiculous. This is kind of silly, right? When I tell you, this show starts, all right? The show starts, and when I tell you, it was mayhem in this show, okay? I mean, these women were like, ah! And like within 2 seconds, I mean to tell you, these men walk on stage, and within 2 seconds, I guess Maya's definition of corniness changed immediately, because she started turning to these women and she's like, he's mine. And this woman's like, no, he's mine. She's like, no, I want him. And I mean, these women were like going crazy. I'd never seen anything like it. And I have to tell you, the most amazing thing to me was, you know, they do the what do you call it, the bathtub where the water's poured over them, and they do all the different, the fireman, you know, the cop, they do all of the different ones that, you know, you've seen on TV and movies before, right? Magic Mike, the movie, and all that kind of stuff. But there was one like segment that they do, and it's where like all of the guys are dressed really, really nice, and they're dressed in like, you know, turtleneck sweaters and like, you know, khaki pants and like long trench coats, and it's just like a fashion show. And the women, like, that was the one that they went the craziest over. And I have to believe it just says that we like people to look nice for us, you know? So men, if you're out there and you're watching this for your ladies or whoever, you might want to just dress up nice for them every once in a while, because I'm telling you, I have witnessed it with my own eyes that is what they love. So anyway, so I have seen the Chippendales show, okay? I didn't know any of this background history when I went and saw the show. I didn't know that there was any storyline to the background of it. I didn't know who owned it. I didn't care. It was whatever. And when it was over, we got out of there quickly. It was just kind of whatever, you know. It was cheesy. It was cheesy from our point of view. So anyway, I started watching the show, and I quickly started like Googling it and reading the articles about it, because I didn't know anything about it. So what it is about this guy, and his name is Steve Banerjee, and he was from India, and he came to the United States, and he became kind of obsessed with this whole kind of like, I don't even really know how to, like very kind of like gentleman, like attitude of like how you dress in a suit, and the watch, having like the right kind of Rolex watch, and playing backgammon and drinking like a scotch, you know, and that was kind of like the whole look that he really wanted to have, you know, and it was very kind of like this whole playboy attitude. And so he wanted to start this nightclub, and it was going to be a backgammon nightclub, and he did. But then he quickly morphed it into, he came up with this idea that, you know, there were these strip clubs that were for men, where women were dancing, but there was nobody, it was for women, where men were dancing. And so he started this nightclub, and that's what happened. And so he ended up getting this, and I'm spoiling this for you guys, so if you're going to watch the show, which I would highly recommend, do not watch my review. So then he gets this guy. A lot of the characters that are in the actual show are made up characters. Like, he meets his wife. I think her name's Irene. He meets her. She's like at a bachelorette party, but she's not interested in the dancing, and she doesn't drink. And she becomes the accountant, and then he ends up marrying her. She's one of my favorite characters in the show. This Denise, who starts helping with like the dancers and all this kind of stuff, she's kind of obsessed with the club. She loves the club. Like, her character is like a made-up character. Like, she never really existed in real life. They're like based her kind of on somebody. But then there was a character, and his name was Nick. Did I just say that? Nick DeNoia. And he's the one that did like the choreography with the dancers and things like that. And he becomes kind of like a silent partner to Steve. And, but they like are constantly like bashing heads and things like that, right? So Nick goes to New York and he opens his own club there, which for a while is fine because, he's sending proceeds of what he makes in New York to Steve and things like that. But then, like, they continue to battle it out. It's all control and power is what it's about. And, you know, it's like Steve really wants to be this Hugh Hefner type, and he really wants to be at the top of his game, and he wants everybody to know that he's the one that came up with the Chippendales name. And Nick starts going on all these TV shows, you know, like the Geraldo Show and Phil Donahue and all these shows, and saying that he's the one that came up with Chippendales, and Steve's going crazy, right? Even though he's still making good money, he's going crazy over this, and it's driving him nuts. And one of the saddest scenes is his mom calls him on the phone from India, and she says, "You're a failure." And he slams down the phone and he goes, "No, you're a failure, you're a failure." And it's kind of one of the saddest scenes because all he really ever wanted was recognition from his family that he had made it. Like, that's kind of like this undertone through the whole show, which is 8 parts, that he says, you know, like, I made it, I came here, I did something. Like, even at the end, he's talking to this FBI agent. He's like, you know, as a person of color in the United States, like, you don't give us the same opportunities you give to other people, and I still made it, I still rose to the top. And that's really important to him. And so this battle between he and Nick DeNoia just continues to go on. Nick decides that he's going to take Chippendales on tour, which is when it absolutely explodes. There's also this whole thing over these calendars that they do. And it's like, really, like, the sad thing about it is, had they ever decided that they would just get along and agree to disagree on some things, I mean, it could have been astronomical. Like, to this day, I mean, it's like still this thriving business, right? Like, how much all this, it didn't have to end the way that it ended. And so what happens is, Steve has this guy that works for him, this Ray guy, yeah, who's like really super devoted to him and is willing to do anything. So he kind of like sends him to like on tour to see what's going on, and he says, "I don't think he's sending you the right amount of money. Like, I think he's cheating you out of money because they're like making so much money on these shows." And so Steve hires a hit to kill Nick DeNoia. This is a true story. Like, this really did happen. I had no clue about this. And so Nick DeNoia, who was closeted, apparently like bisexual but closeted, he was married to, at one point, Jennifer, why can't I think of her name? She was from the movie Summer of 42. Like, that's how the whole show kind of starts. They're going through a divorce. But apparently he was bisexual and very closeted, and he had this relationship with this guy who, that whole character is fake as well. I think this guy's name is Barton in the show, but he's like, that whole character is fake, but they based him on another character that was like a talent agent. So he is in his office and he gets shot. Like, somebody comes in and shoots him and kills him. And so Steve Banerjee is apparently, you know, obviously the #1 suspect of who they think is doing the one that killed him and hired this hit. And so he flees to Switzerland. Actually, it's like, you can't really tell. Like, when you read the articles, it seems like he fled to Switzerland to kind of like stay safe. But in the show, it makes it seem like he's just on tour with the Chippendales tour, okay? So this Ray guy, they find him through the guy that did the hit. They find this Ray guy and basically, you know, say, if you can give us something in exchange, then we won't send you to jail. I think Ray ends up doing, because he's the one that actually was the one that calculated the hit. So he ends up, I think, doing 7 months or 7 years in prison. But so he goes to Switzerland and he manipulates Steve, who Steve can kind of tell something's going on, but he manipulates Steve and gets Steve to basically confess that, yes, he did order the hit on Nick DeNoia. And so then the FBI come in and they arrest him. And then at the end, it's the day before sentencing. He's in jail, you know, and he's going to lose everything. And his fear at the end is his wife has left him, his daughter's left him. I think he has 2 kids at the end, but they didn't show that in the show. I read that in some article. I think there's a son and a daughter. But his wife has left him, and he wanted her to have everything. And he was under the assumption that, like, if he, you know, was taken down or whatever, like, she would still get Chippendales in the divorce but that wasn't the case. And if he was sentenced, then she would lose everything. Like, she would have nothing to live on. And you could tell at the end that he was still very much in love with her. And so he ends up taking his own life, and they make it seem so that she can have the proceeds of anything, the business of Chippendales that she inherits. It says at the end of the show that she, you know, that they couldn't take it because the sentencing never happened. I read an article that said how much Chippendales was worth at the time of his death, and I was actually very surprised. It wasn't, I mean, it was in the 80s, but it wasn't worth as much as I thought it would be worth. I mean, I thought it would be like astronomical amount of money, and it was worth just, you know, I think it was like a couple $1 million maybe or something like that. I mean, which is still a lot of money, right? But like for like how much they had going on, I mean, all of these tours, and they had, you know, clubs in several different cities. He did lose the LA club, but every episode was so fantastic. They were only like 37 minutes long. The whole series was so good. I have to tell you, we just got back from vacation in Mexico, and I wanted to watch the 2 episodes down there so bad, and they weren't available because of Hulu in Mexico. Even with my VPN, it wasn't available. I don't know. I couldn't figure it out. So I was like, what's going on? So anyway, but I couldn't watch them until I came back, and so last night I binge watched the last 2 episodes, and it just was fantastic. It was a really well done documentary, or not documentary, it was a really well done docudrama. It was a really well done series. I didn't know a lot about it. Juliette Lewis is fantastic in it. I'm a huge Juliette Lewis fan. She was so good in it. What's the guy, Murray Bartlett, that was in White Lotus and Looking? He was so fantastic in it as well. The guy that plays Steve Banerjee, I mean, he was just incredible. The woman that plays his wife was so good. I mean, the actors and the actresses in this were just, it was unbelievable. And it's my first completed show of 2023. So you can put that on my, I put it on my list for watched shows of 2023. I would give this show easily a 9 out of 10. I thought it closed up tightly. I thought it was really easy to watch. I could have binge watched it easily in one day. It was so fantastic. So, and I didn't know anything about this. I had never heard anything about this story. And apparently there's a documentary as well on Hulu that it goes behind the scenes, and I'm going to watch that as well. So let me know what you think or what you thought if you've watched it in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.